I should have ignored the page. I should have crumpled it, tossed it in the motel trash, and never looked back. But I didn't. Instead, I sat there under the sickly yellow glow of the motel room lamp, staring at the single sheet of paper someone had slid under my door. A blood stain darkened the top right corner, its edges feathering into the cheap paper like ink spreading through cloth. The words, typed neatly in a serif font, were mine. A passage from my unpublished novel. I picked it up carefully, my fingers hovering over the stain, my pulse pounding in my ears. The excerpt was familiar, but something about it felt wrong. He lay still, his body cooling under the neon hum, the words carved into his skin like a confession no one would read. His killer had been careful, precise, a writer's touch. I swallowed. I had written this. A scene from a draft I'd abandoned months ago, convinced it wasn't worth finishing. But now, here it was, printed, blood-stained, slipped under my door like an invitation. A chill crept up my spine. I stood, crossing the room in 3 steps, and yanked open the door. The night air hit me, dry and cold, carrying the scent of rain on asphalt. The parking lot was nearly empty. A flickering neon sign buzzed above, casting long shadows across the cracked pavement. The road beyond stretched into darkness, empty, but watching. Who had left the page? I stepped out onto the concrete walkway, my bare feet protesting against the cold. I scanned the lot, nothing. No retreating figures, no idling cars. Just the endless highway and the rustling of the motel's half-dead palm trees. I swallowed hard and turned back inside, locking the door behind me. Then I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the page. This wasn't a prank. It was a message. And the blood meant it was real. I reached for my bag, rummaging through my notes, printouts, and crime scene photos. The manuscript killings had haunted the news for months. A killer carving passages of an unpublished book into his victims, leaving behind cryptic pages at each scene. I had come to this nowhere town off Route 66 to dig deeper, to write the book that would make sense of it all. But now, the story wasn't mine to tell anymore. Now, I was in it. I looked down at the passage again, heart hammering. He lay still, his body cooling under the neon hum. My eyes flicked toward the window, toward the flickering motel sign outside. Then it hit me. This scene, this exact description, was happening right now. Somewhere nearby, under the neon glow of a sign just like this one, there was a body cooling in the dark. I threw on my jacket and stepped outside, the motel door slamming shut behind me. The night air pressed in, thick with the scent of rain and dust. The neon vacancy sign buzzed overhead, its flickering light casting sickly red glows onto the cracked pavement. The passage, the blood-stained page. Somewhere out here, the scene was real. I scanned the parking lot again, my breath coming fast. The motel was nearly empty, just my rental car, a rusted pickup near the office, and an old sedan parked under the farthest light. Then I saw it, a shape, sprawled on the pavement just beyond the glow of the last street lamp. My stomach twisted. I forced my feet forward, each step heavy, slow, my mind screaming at me to turn back. But I had written this scene. I knew how it ended. I reached the body. A man in his 40s, face pale in the dim light, eyes frozen wide in shock. His shirt was torn, blood seeping through the fabric in dark, uneven streaks. And there, just below his collarbone, carved into his flesh, words. My words. A writer's touch. I staggered back, bile rising in my throat. This wasn't just a copy of my passage. It was exact. The sentence slashed into his skin with chilling precision, the letters deep and clean as if written by a practiced hand. A fresh metallic scent hung in the air. I looked around, scanning the darkness beyond the parking lot. No movement, no sound. Whoever had done this was gone. But they had been here, watching. I fumbled for my phone, my hands slick with sweat, and dialed 911. The line rang once before a voice picked up. Emergency services. I swallowed hard. I need to report a murder. There's a body outside the... I turned, glancing up at the chipped sign above the motel office. The Red Rock Motel off Route 66. Sir, are you in immediate danger? I looked down at the blood-stained page still clutched in my fingers. I don't know. A pause. Then, officers are en route. Stay on the line. But I barely heard them, because something caught my eye, tucked beneath the dead man's fingers, partially hidden by the cooling blood. Another page. My breath hitched. I crouched, carefully prying it free. The paper was crumpled, but the words were clear. A new passage, one I hadn't written. He didn't see the next twist coming, didn't feel the eyes on him, the footsteps in the dark. He only realized the truth when it was far too late. The hairs on my arms rose. This wasn't my writing. This was his. And as I stared at the final line, dread curled around my ribs. He never thought he'd be the protagonist of his own horror story. A twig snapped behind me. I wasn't alone. The snap of the twig sent ice through my veins. I froze, my grip tightening on the blood-stained page. The night around me had gone impossibly still. No wind, no distant highway sounds, just the soft hum of the motel's buzzing neon sign and the weight of something watching. I turned my head slowly, nothing but darkness stretching beyond the lot. But I knew better. Someone was out there. The page in my hands crinkled as I clenched my fists. Whoever had written this, whoever had left this body here, wasn't done yet. And now, I was part of the story. My pulse thundered. My instincts screamed at me to run, to get back inside, lock the door, wait for the cops. But I had spent years chasing stories, digging into the minds of killers, unraveling their patterns. This one wasn't done playing with me. Slowly, I stepped away from the body, my ears straining for another sound. The air felt thick, heavy, pressing against my skin. My shadow stretched long across the pavement, shifting as the neon flickered overhead. I swallowed hard and spoke, my voice steady despite the fear clawing at my throat. I know you're there. Nothing. Just the silence pressing closer. I forced a breath. You left this for me. You wanted me to find it. I held up the page. So what now? Still nothing. Then, a whisper. Not words. Just the faintest shift of breath from somewhere in the dark. Every nerve in my body screamed. I turned sharply, my eyes darting across the lot, searching. The shadows between the cars seemed deeper now, stretching too far. My pulse pounded in my ears. And then, movement. A figure, just beyond the edge of the lot. A glimpse of something too still, standing between the motel and the empty desert beyond. The moment I saw it, it was gone, vanished into the black. I staggered back, my breath hitching. No sound of footsteps, no retreating figure, just emptiness where someone had been standing seconds ago. The page in my hand burned like a brand. He never thought he'd be the protagonist of his own horror story. I had spent years writing about killers, hunting their ghosts. But now the story had turned on me. Sirens wailed in the distance, a sharp break in the quiet. I turned back to the body, the carved words gleaming under the neon glow. A writer's touch. The killer wasn't just mimicking my words. They were following a script, and I had a sickening feeling I already knew how the next chapter ended. I swallowed against the knot in my throat and backed toward my motel room, my eyes still locked on the dark horizon, because I wasn't afraid of the body. I was afraid of whoever or whatever was out there. And worse, I had the distinct feeling they were just getting started. The sirens grew louder, slicing through the silence like a blade. I backed toward my motel room, my heart hammering. The blood-stained page crinkled in my grip, the words seared into my mind. He never thought he'd be the protagonist of his own horror story. My story, my words, but not written by me. A gust of wind rolled across the lot, carrying the scent of rain and something metallic. The body lay motionless under the neon hum, a grim punctuation mark at the end of a sentence I hadn't finished writing. Headlights cut through the dark as two patrol cars pulled into the lot, tires crunching over gravel. The motel manager, a wiry man in a stained white undershirt, shuffled out of the office, his face pale in the glow of the flashing lights. Two officers stepped out, one older, broad-shouldered, with graying hair, the other younger, stiff in his uniform, a hand hovering near his holster. The older one, Detective Harris, according to his badge, fixed me with a sharp look. "You the one who called it in?" I nodded, swallowing the dryness in my throat. "Daniel Langford." I hesitated, glancing at the body. "I found him." Harris exchanged a glance with the younger officer, then motioned for me to step back. "Stay put." I did as I was told, watching as they approached the body. Harris knelt beside the victim, pulling on gloves. His expression barely flickered as he studied the carved letters in the dead man's chest. The younger officer, Clark, let out a low whistle. "Jesus, just like the others." Harris shot him a look, and Clark straightened. I clenched my fists, just like the others. The manuscript killings. I forced myself to speak. "You've seen this before." Harris stood brushing dust from his knees. "You a cop?" I shook my head. "Crime writer." His gaze sharpened. "Right. You're the guy who's been sniffing around town for a book." My stomach twisted. "I came here to research the case, yeah, but this..." I gestured to the body. "This is different. The others were found in abandoned houses, old buildings. This was left here, right outside my room." Harris folded his arms. "And we're supposed to believe that's a coincidence?" I held up the blood-stained page. "Somebody slid this under my door before I found him." Harris took the paper, eyes narrowing. He read the passage once, then again. Then his expression changed. Not surprise, not confusion, recognition. My pulse quickened. "You've seen this before, haven't you?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he folded the paper neatly and tucked it into his coat pocket. Then he looked at me. "You should leave town, Mr. Langford." A chill crawled up my spine. "Why?" Harris exhaled, glancing back at the body. His voice was low when he spoke. "Because if you stay, you're going to find out how your story ends." Detective Harris's words settled over me like a weight. "If you stay, you're going to find out how your story ends." The wind picked up, rattling the motel sign above us. The smell of rain hung thick in the air, mixing with the coppery tang of blood. I forced myself to swallow the unease creeping up my spine. "You know something you're not telling me." Harris's jaw tightened. He didn't answer, just turned toward his patrol car. I stepped forward. "Detective..." He cut me off without looking back. "Go back to your room, Langford. Pack your bags. Be on the next bus out." I clenched my fists. "I came here for answers." "Yeah?" He stopped at the driver's side door and glanced at me over his shoulder. His eyes were tired, wary. "Some questions don't need answers." With that, he slid into his car and slammed the door shut. The engine roared to life. The flashing red and blue lights bathed the motel in pulses of color, casting long shadows across the lot. I watched as the patrol cars pulled away, the sirens fading into the night. The body was gone. The blood still stained the pavement, dark and wet under the neon hum. And I was alone. I shut the door behind me, bolting the lock. The motel room was as I left it. Stale air, flickering lamp, a desk covered in scattered notes. My unfinished manuscript sat open on the table, a mess of pages, half-thought-out plot lines, and dead-end theories. I sank into the chair, rubbing a hand over my face. This wasn't just research anymore. The manuscript killer had pulled me into his story, and I had a feeling I was heading straight for the final chapter. I reached for the blood-stained page Harris had taken, but of course it was gone. The detective had pocketed it, but I still had my memory. He never thought he'd be the protagonist of his own horror story. I exhaled shakily. Someone had written those words for me. Someone knew exactly what would happen next. And then, a sound outside, a whisper of movement, a soft shift against the floor just beyond my door. My stomach lurched. I stood slowly, my pulse pounding in my ears. Another page. I knew it before I even saw it. I took a deep breath, then stepped forward and pulled the door open. The hallway was empty, the air was still, and there, just at the threshold, another single sheet of paper. No blood this time, just crisp, clean type. I bent down, hands trembling, and picked it up. I read the words once, twice. My breath hitched. Tomorrow he'll run. He'll think he has a choice. But he doesn't. A shadow passed beneath the motel sign. Someone was still out there, watching, waiting. I shut the door, bolted it, braced a chair beneath the handle for good measure. None of it made me feel safer. The page in my hands trembled slightly, though whether from my grip or the words themselves I couldn't tell. Tomorrow he'll run. He'll think he has a choice. But he doesn't. I stared at the lines until the letters blurred. Someone was out there. Someone who had been close enough to slide this under my door without a sound. I pressed my back against the wall, straining to hear beyond the motel's thin walls. The occasional murmur of a TV, the hum of the neon sign, the far-off growl of a truck barreling down Route 66. But nothing else. No footsteps, no breathing, no shadow lingering outside my window. I forced a slow breath and sat at the edge of the bed, rubbing a hand over my face. I needed to think. Harris had told me to leave, practically begged me to get out. But this page, this story, claimed I wouldn't. Did the killer mean I'd be dead before I could? Or did they know something I didn't? A sick feeling curled in my stomach. Whoever was behind the manuscript killings wasn't just playing with me. They were writing me, and I was following the script exactly. A plan, or a trap. I stood, dragging my suitcase from the closet and tossing it onto the bed. Fine. If the killer thought I wouldn't run, I'd prove them wrong. I grabbed my notes, my manuscript pages, shoving them into my bag. My hands moved fast, my body running on adrenaline, but my mind screamed at me to think. I needed a way to get ahead, a way to break the pattern. My eyes flicked to the new page again. Tomorrow, he'll run. They were expecting me to wait, expecting me to follow the script, wake up in the morning, then try to flee. But what if I left now? What if I skipped to the next chapter before they were ready? The thought sent a fresh pulse of adrenaline through me. I zipped up my bag, grabbed my car keys, and turned for the door. Then I hesitated. Something felt off. A whisper of unease slithered down my spine. I turned back to my desk, to my manuscript. The pages sat undisturbed, except one. A single sheet lay slightly askew, not where I'd left it. I frowned, stepping closer, and then I saw it. A line of text I hadn't written, centered on the page, typed neatly. He opened the door, thinking he was ahead of the game. He didn't see what was waiting for him on the other side. My breath hitched. A shadow moved beneath the door. And then, a knock. Software slow. I wasn't alone. The knock was soft, almost polite. I didn't move. I stood frozen, my breath caught in my chest, staring at the door as if I could will it to stay closed. He opened the door, thinking he was ahead of the game. He didn't see what was waiting for him on the other side. The words on the page blurred in my vision. Whoever was out there, whoever had written this, was waiting for me to follow the script. The knock came again, a slow, measured rhythm. Knock, knock, knock. Not the frantic pounding of someone in trouble, not the impatient rap of a cop. A deliberate sound, a writer's touch. My fingers curled into fists. They wanted me to open the door, They wanted me to step outside, follow the story to its next scene. And I almost did. Almost reached out, almost turned the handle. But then my instincts kicked in. I took a slow step backward, my heartbeat hammering in my ears. I wasn't going to play by their rules. I wasn't going to open that door. The motel room was silent except for the buzz of the neon sign outside, the hum of my own breathing. Then, the doorknob twisted, a sharp metallic click. Someone was trying to get in. Cold fear knotted in my gut. My legs tensed, every nerve screaming run. But where? The window. I moved fast, yanking the curtains open. The glass pane was thin, old. It would break easily if I had to go through it. Outside, the parking lot stretched empty beneath the motel sign's flickering glow. I reached for the latch, and then I stopped. There, across the lot, standing just beyond the reach of the street lamp, a figure. Motionless, watching. Even in the dim light, I could make out the outline of a long coat, a shadowed face beneath a tilted hat. I couldn't see the eyes, but I felt them. The air in the room thickened, the weight of unseen hands pressing against my skin. My pulse pounded. I turned back to the door. Silence. Whoever had been trying to enter was gone. But they weren't gone, were they? They were out there, waiting, watching. A fresh sheet of paper lay beneath the door now. Another page slipped into my story. I moved toward it slowly, my stomach twisting. I crouched, picked it up, read the words. He thought he could change the ending. But the ending was already written. I clenched my jaw. No, it wasn't. I grabbed my bag, threw it over my shoulder, and moved to the window. If they were expecting me to open the door, I'd rewrite the script. I'd go out the back instead. And for the first time, I felt something other than fear. I felt determined. I didn't hesitate. I shoved the window open, the warped frame groaning in protest. The night air rushed in, cold against my skin, carrying the scent of rain and gasoline. Behind me, the room felt heavy, thick with something unseen. The door remained closed, but I could feel its presence, the weight of the story pressing in, urging me to follow its path. He opened the door, thinking he was ahead of the game. I wasn't opening that door. I wasn't playing by their rules. I swung one leg over the sill and dropped into the alley behind the motel. My knees buckled as I landed on the cracked pavement, gravel digging into my palms. I bit back a curse and pushed myself up. The motel's back lot was empty. No cars, no figures in the dark. Just a stretch of broken asphalt leading to the highway. I adjusted the bag on my shoulder and took a step forward. A footstep crunched behind me. I spun, heart slamming against my ribs. Nothing. Just the dim glow of my motel room window, curtains swaying slightly. I swallowed hard. Was I imagining it? The story was still moving, still pulling me forward. I needed to get out of here. I turned and hurried toward the road. The rental car was parked on the far side of the lot just past the office. If I could make it there, if I could get behind the wheel, maybe I could break free from whatever the hell this was. But then, another page. It was waiting for me, perfectly placed in the center of the pavement. Crisp, white, clean. I didn't want to pick it up, but I did. Because I had to. My hands shook as I unfolded it. The protagonist thought he was off script. He thought he had taken control. But he didn't realize the story was never his to write. A chill crawled up my spine. A shadow shifted across the pavement. I wasn't alone. I turned slowly, every muscle in my body locking up. The figure from before, the one who had stood watching beneath the motel sign, was closer now. Standing at the edge of the alley, not moving, not speaking, just waiting. The neon flickered above us, casting flashes of light across his face. I caught glimpses. Sharp cheekbones, the brim of a hat pulled low, lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. I took a step back. So did he, mirroring me. A sick realization sank in. This wasn't a stalker. This wasn't just some killer playing games. This was someone, or something, writing the story as it happened, and I was still following the script. I clenched the page in my fist. No more. I turned and ran toward the car. If the ending was already written, I was going to burn the damn book. I ran. The pavement was slick under my feet, the night air thick with the scent of dust and distant rain. My bag slammed against my back as I sprinted toward my car, my breath coming fast, my mind screaming at me to move faster. Behind me, the figure followed. I didn't hear footsteps, didn't hear breathing, but I felt it. A presence pressing against my spine, a shadow moving where it shouldn't. I fumbled for my keys as I reached the rental car. My hands were shaking, my pulse hammering in my ears. I jammed the key into the lock, yanked the door open, and threw myself inside. The second I slammed the door shut, the world outside seemed to still. No movement, no figure standing at the alley's edge. Just the empty parking lot bathed in neon flickers. I exhaled shakily, my hands gripping the wheel. The engine roared to life beneath me, a comforting growl of something real. Something mine. I could leave. I could drive away, right now, and put this town in my rearview mirror. But then, another page. It lay on the dashboard, as if it had always been there. My breath caught in my throat. With numb fingers, I picked it up. The protagonist made it to the car. He thought he was free, but he had already reached the final chapter. I stared at the words, my hands tightening around the page. A chill spread through me, slow and inevitable. I wasn't free. I was exactly where the story wanted me to be. I looked up and saw him, standing directly in front of the car, just beyond the reach of the headlights. The figure, the writer, the thing that had been leading me here all along. The neon glow flickered across his face, revealing nothing. A shadow where features should have been, a smudge against reality itself. I gritted my teeth. I wasn't going to play this game anymore. I slammed my foot onto the gas. The tires screeched against the pavement, the car lunging forward, straight through him. The impact never came. He didn't move, didn't flinch. The second my headlights passed over the space where he had been standing, he was just gone, like he had never been there at all. I gripped the wheel, my heart slamming against my ribs. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. I pressed harder on the gas, the motel shrinking in my rearview mirror. The road stretched ahead, dark and endless. The manuscript had predicted every move I'd made. But if I was heading into the final chapter, I needed to figure out how to change the ending, because I had a sinking feeling. The story didn't want me to survive. The highway stretched into the dark, empty and endless. The motel was gone, swallowed by the night behind me. My knuckles were white against the wheel, my foot pressing hard on the gas. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I had to keep moving. The rental car's headlights cut through the desert, illuminating nothing but cracked asphalt and dry, brittle shrubs. No signs, no mile markers. Just the road ahead, twisting, stretching, leading me somewhere. I glanced at the passenger seat. The pages were there, stacked neatly, as if they had always been waiting for me. I hadn't put them there. My chest tightened. Slowly, I reached over with a shaking hand, flipping through them. My manuscript. But not my words. New passages had been added. The final pages of the story I hadn't written. And at the very bottom, a single line that made my stomach drop. He thought he could outrun the ending. But the road only ever led one way. I slammed the brakes. The car skidded, tires screeching against the pavement. The smell of burning rubber filled the air as I lurched forward, heart hammering against my ribs. The dust settled, and I saw it. A motel, the same motel. The red rock sign flickered above it, buzzing weakly, casting the parking lot in eerie red light. I had never left. A wave of nausea hit me. I gripped the wheel, my breaths ragged. This wasn't possible. I had been driving for nearly an hour. How had I ended up right back where I started? My fingers tightened around the manuscript pages, crumpling them. A new sheet of paper sat on top now, waiting for me to read it. The protagonist finally understood. The story was never his to escape. It was his to complete. A shadow passed in front of my headlights. I snapped my head up. There, standing just beyond the glow. Him, the writer, the thing that had been leading me here all along. No features, no face, just presence. I swallowed hard, gripping the steering wheel. "No," I whispered. "No, I won't do this." The page in my lap shifted. New words appeared, typed, forming in real time. He spoke his final words, still believing he had a choice. My breath hitched. The figure stepped closer. The pages rustled again. And then, he stepped out of the car. I gritted my teeth. I wouldn't. The air inside the car grew heavy. The pressure in my skull built, like invisible hands pressing against me, guiding me. And he opened the door. My fingers twitched. Somewhere, deep inside, something pulled at me. Not control. Permission. The door clicked open. I stepped out. The story had reached its final line, and I was no longer the one writing it.